And we are live. Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I'm Justin Mason, joined by Mike Kurland. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, man?
How you doing?
This is living it. This is the dream.
This is unexpected. Matt Thompson's power went out, and then Mike Werner's computer wouldn't work, or actually, kid wouldn't go to bed. So I just threw it out on Twitter, and I want to do a live stream, and now I've got my boy LT joining us as well. LT, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Is my mic working?
It is. You're doing good. So we got LT and we got Mike Kurland. Mike, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Oh, man. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike_Kurland. I'm the host of the Bases Loaded podcast. I write for Rotoballer. I help out with SP Streamer. I'm a little it's called at 3Bs of Baseball, but it's Beer Bourbon Baseball. It's a weekly live stream we do on the Twitterverse as well. So Thank you for having me on, as always.
And LT, is that what you're going by these days? Are you actually using your real name now?
Yeah, I battled back and forth with it, but I just decided to lay T-hole, Bedek to rest. That's probably the only thing anybody ever knew me by on here, but it's gone and it's forgotten. So we're moving on. We're moving past it. Part of me will always cherish the memories, but
as will I, my friend. It's good to see you and hear your voice. Tell people whether you can reach on social media and then what you do.
Social media. What is my current social media handle? Is it Yoga Bay 143 is on Twitter. Yoga Bay on Instagram, which is where probably most of my content is at these days, is on IG. It's a little bit different world than the Twitter world. Twitter is just me more just ranting about sports and stuff like that. But what am I doing now? I don't know. I've been doing a lot of yoga since the lockdown. I've got certified. I've just been doing a lot of exercise stuff. I had shoulder surgery though, so I've kind of just been rehabbing, getting my life in order, and just kind of, feeling the lockdown vibes and just zoning in and just enjoying it and taking it in, loving it.
You've also been doing a podcast, I think, with Andy, right?
Yeah, we did 3 or 4 episodes. I'm not sure, and then I'm going to break out and kind of do my own thing. And my idea was to sort of do more local stuff for me, just with whether it's fitness people or doctor or just people in my area. Because for more of my Instagram audience, they're not really on Twitter. But him and I were mostly doing sports, politics, but I'm not sure if it's just going to work out time-wise or if it's something that I don't know how interested he is, but I'm really interested in getting back in the podcast game. So I'm trying to get a little bit more gung-ho on my own here.
Nice. All right, well, let's talk a little bit of fantasy baseball. Injuries are continuing to pile up. Charlie Morton hit the IL with shoulder soreness today. Giancarlo Stanton hit the IL earlier in the week with the hamstring injury. Corey Seager missed the game today with a back issue. At what point do you start dropping guys there, Mike?
No, it really depends. It really depends on the format. Like if we're talking like, some of these like the mains and stuff like this, it's a lot harder to hold on to these guys. If you have a nice comfortable lead or if you're looking really good and you can afford to stash them, it's really team dependent, but it's starting to pile up really quickly. And if you're running out of IL spots, you got to wait for a little more information. I'm at the point where it's like Seager, I feel like it's still kind of vague. Morton's on the IL and Stanton's on the IL, and Stanton always deals with these injuries. And I hate it because I'm a Stanton guy. Like I'm always going to be a Stanton guy. It's just, I'm not sure I'm quite there yet, but it's close. I'm like maybe a week, at most a week I'm waiting because we're already a fourth of the way through the season.
Yeah, we're already a fourth of the way through the season. And if a guy's going to miss even just the minimum 10 days, then you're starting to get into there's only 2/3 of a season left or maybe a half a season left. So, LT, what are you doing in fantasy if your guys are injured? You just dropping and moving on?
I think that's the case. I think that's what you got to do in a weird season like this. I believe that's what I would do. Although dropping Stanton, I don't know if it's something I could ever physically do, as I've always been obsessed with him in every way. And I can't believe he got hurt again. And I had a big Vegas bet of him and Judge being named co-MVPs, and it looks like that's not in the cards, eh?
No, I hope you got really good odds on that one. that was never going to happen. But this is one of the reasons why, like, coming in the season, I was like, anybody with injury question marks, like, I'm staying away from. I think right now you can drop Charlie Morton. He was giving up the most hard contact of any pitcher in the major leagues. He just does not look right. I'm pretty sure someone told me today that he said this is going to be his last season anyways. Who knows if he decides to come back or just wait till the playoffs? Or I know they said that he's going to come back after the 10-day minimum, but I mean, he's been bad this year already. So I think I'd cut bait on him. I think I'd hold on to Stanton for right now. Seager, you obviously, like Mike said, just got to wait for a little bit more information.
When it comes to Morton, real quick, it's like it makes you wonder what maybe the shoulder was actually an issue this whole time because he was dealing with dip and velo.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe he was trying to push through it. Got his velo up a little bit last game, and it caused the injury or caused it to be a bigger issue. And now we're seeing, and any type of shoulder, arm, like I completely agree. Morton's probably the most droppable of these for sure. Stanton, I'm still holding out hope for whatever reason, and Seager, I'm just not there yet.
It's just so hard because I mean, Stanton could be a league winner for people if he's healthy. And he looked good for those first 10 games or whatever they played, but it's the last 50 that are going to count now.
Yeah, what is wrong with this guy? He's such a stallion. I'm like, come on, man. This guy needs some more yoga in his life.
I think that's part of the problem, man. It's sometimes these guys that are so muscular and so big, they don't have that flexibility, or their body just breaks down because of the amount of torque and stuff that they can put on, on the bat and stuff. And I don't know, man. I feel it because I love Stanton and I love having him on my teams, but I stayed away in the later drafts. I have him on a few teams in some earlier drafts from February before COVID hit. But I stayed far away because I just wasn't willing to take the risk.
Year after year after year, I get sucked in.
I'll be back next year at the discount.
Yeah. I'm sure I will be too, because I mean,
5th round pick.
Yeah, he could be less than a 5th round pick. It depends on. I mean, if he only plays let's say another 10 games, I mean, are people really going to take him in the top 5 rounds?
Yes.
Yeah, someone will.
You're fine in your league.
Bogman. I'll say we'll find. There's always somebody.
If he hits 4 spring home runs, the price will just go right back to the 2nd, 3rd round.
And plays the field, Like if he plays 3 games in the field, hits 5 spring home runs, that's all it's going to take.
Well, let's move on. And if people want to ask questions that are watching live, feel free, and we'll get to them either later in the show or as topics pop up. But I want to talk about Ramon Laureano because he's still playing right now, but there's a suspension coming. And I think a lot of people who are smart, especially in NFBC went, well, he'll get to appeal. That'll be a few days, so I'll get to use him for the first part of the week. So, Mike, what are you doing with Ramon Laureano? Are you just – I mean, obviously you're holding him. You're not going to but what do you expect him to get suspended for, or how many games? And, who are you picking up off the waiver wire to replace him?
Oh, that's so tough. I mean, it depends. Obviously, it goes back to league depth, but there's a lot of I know there's a lot of Cronenworth out there. There's a lot of there's still pretty good amount of Solano. All these guys are just come out of nowhere. Jesse Winker, if you're deeper, we had a guy actually asked today on the podcast if he should grab Winker, and it was a deeper league, and he's a strong side platoon type of guy, but he's hitting well lately. So that's if you're in a deeper league, Winker is a relatively available guy. But yeah, it's just. I'm not sure. I mean, they said they'd be really aggressive on these types of things. I expect it to be upwards of a month, probably, give or take.
No, I don't think.
You don't think so?
I think it'll be like the 8 games that Joe Kelly just.
You think it's all? I'm thinking. I thought it was gonna be ultra aggressive, try to set a point. I figured they would start high, make him, go to the whole thing of trying to get it, settled down a little less. I thought they were going to be super aggressive and be look, you can't do this, period. They were saying how big of a deal this was going to be. Throwing at somebody's one thing, but actually causing a bench clearing brawl where everybody's now contaminating one another. The whole point, that was supposed to be really harped on, is don't do this. So I could see them being very aggressive. So, okay, I admit a month was a little a little bit much, but 10, 12 games, that's still about 2 weeks worth of games. Roughly, I could see them giving them easily.
If Laureano is out for 2 weeks, are you dropping him, LT?
I think I am dropping him. I like to hear Mike talking about my boy Winkster because I was streaming him so often, dropping him almost daily last year, and picking him up, putting him back in, dropping him, putting him back in, and I got a lot of usage out of Winker, whatever it is. Last year, it could have been the year before. It's been sort of a blur, but I believe it was last year. But yeah, I would probably drop him. I mean, he wasn't. What I thought the Joe Kelly stuff, I got a lot of crap because I'm never for throwing over guys' heads and whatever. I didn't really paying attention, but I thought that was worse than this. So I'm thinking I'm kind of on board with you thinking it won't be super long. So depending on roster flexibility, you could keep them, but I'd probably just cut bait.
I mean, you got to hope that you have the depth to hold him because, I mean, he is one of those guys that can be a difference maker in fantasy when he's on the field. His problem is just staying on the field sometimes. And this was a not being able to stay on the field thing that I don't think anybody saw coming, obviously. I think they're going to give him 8 to 10 games. He'll peel. They'll drop it a little bit. But, I think he's going to miss probably a full week of action once the suspension does take place. So, I mean, that's hard.
Did he get a punch in? Did he? What?
No, he got tackled way before that.
Come on.
Man. And that's the thing. The coach should be suspended for the rest of the year.
Yeah, he was
you got no business talking to the other team. I'm sorry. And inciting a brawl, that coach should be done for the year. So who serves a longer suspension, Alex Cedrone or Ramon Laureano? That's one of the comments from Com Central Sports. I think it's going to be Alex Cedrone.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It should be Centrone because all the videos shows him antagonizing and being the guy who's like, "Hey, let's do this," and then saying even all the verbal stuff that kind of went with it as well. The whole I guess what he was saying was something about his mother in Spanish or something. So obviously he did it, but it's still it's all this. Who took the action to actually start it? You know what I mean? That's where it's I wonder. I just want to see they're going to try to set a precedence with this one. And that's why I'm concerned. I know a month was very bold. I don't think I should have said month, but 2 weeks should have been realistic. I still think it's going to be 2 weeks because they want to make sure this doesn't happen again. That's why they went so hard at Kelly with the 8 games. Because for a relief pitcher, 8 games is a lot. But for an everyday player, 2 weeks would probably be the mark I see them going with. And Centrone probably, I'd say, I hope they give him, like you said, I hope it's the rest of the year, but realistically a month or so, and then he'll kind of try to deal it down as well.
How old is Centrone?
He's got to be in his late 40s.
Would he have had a shot if they let them go at it for?
He looks like he's in good shape.
Yeah,
he looked kind of big to me. I was like, oh,
yeah, he's a former ball player, so and he looks like he's in good shape. So I think it would have been a fair fight. But I mean, the one thing that tells me I'll put my money on Laureano is the fact the moment Laureano started to move towards him, Centrone just dove behind, hold me back or something. He's 41. Okay, there we go. See, he was not he was all talk, no action. I mean, you see that all the time in fights. It's the guy who's talking the most is the one who's going to get knocked out the fastest.
Yeah, we see it on Twitter too.
Eugenics.
There you go. All right, let's move on and talk about the Cardinals outbreak situation because this is getting ridiculous. And it's really scaring me that at some point this season will end early. Because I mean we've now had yesterday they announced that the entire series against the Pirates is going to be postponed, and now the doubleheader on Thursday that was supposed to be makeup games against the Tigers, that is postponed as well. There hasn't been any new cases, apparently. This is just a precautionary thing as they wait for more results. But if you, Mike, let's say you have Tommy Edman.
I do.
Yeah, and I do too. And I put him on. I luckily put him on my bench. Obviously, an NFBC thing. Well, if they're playing this weekend, I could throw him back in. But how long can you hold on to some of these guys?
I mean, if you're still, at this point, I know it sounds like we both did this. We both already still have them on most of our teams. Mm-hmm. I think at this point, you're just gutting it out for the next 4 days. Hope that you can plug him in for the Friday for the weekend. But we also have to hope he doesn't have it. we don't really have a full list of names of everybody that's affected, do we? I haven't seen a full list of names. I know there's been a lot of
There's been some leaking, like Yadier Molina, Ponce de Leon, Ryan Helsley, Paul DeJong.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I know there's been a lot of leak. I know the names have been leaked, but we haven't heard of any. Like I said, we haven't heard Edman's name. Doesn't mean he doesn't have it. He could have just been fortunate enough not to have it leaked. So we're assuming he doesn't have it. At this point, you're holding on because you're committed to holding on. You got to think with 7-inning doubleheaders, all these guys, like especially at Edman type, will probably end up playing both those games more times than not. Maybe the older guys like the Goldschmidts, the Carpenters, those guys might be more affected by the doubleheaders and play less. But as a team, I mean, we were just laughing about how the season's a quarter way through, but for them, it's not. for them, or it might be. We don't know how they're going to handle this. Like, this is the first team. The Marlins made it past this, and they're already kind of catching up to the rest of the league. But this is the first team we have to be concerned not playing a full season.
Well, and like the doubleheaders is going to be a big deal in the grand scope of things too, because there's 7 innings, which means each game that they do a doubleheader for. So let's say they do a total of 6 doubleheaders, so 12 games where they're playing 7 innings. That's a lot. That's 24 innings you take off of their team, and those players being able to accrue stats. So like we're gonna start like I think you're keeping Tommy Edman. Obviously, you're keeping Goldschmidt. Obviously, you're keeping Jack Flaherty. Like, then you start having real question marks about who is worth keeping. LT, like, what? Like, is there a line for you on guys that you would keep on St. Louis right now?
Yeah, there's a definite line in the sand when I look through this roster, and I just see a lot of things that I'm not impressed with, that I'm not excited about, that I want nothing to do with. There is nothing exciting to me on this roster outside of maybe 2 of the guys you just said. I am just staying away and seeing what happened. They played 5 games total, which is still blowing my mind. I still can't comprehend it. I don't know what's going on anymore. It's a lot of doubleheaders. But yeah, so are you talking about taking advantage of those doubleheaders, like with the guys that will be playing 2 games per day? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about more a matter of like Colton Wong. Do you just drop Colton Wong because we don't know when they're going to start playing games, and when they do, you're going to chop 2 innings off at each one of those starts?
Oh, because they're going to 7. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, over the course, they may lose 20 innings worth of playing time.
And that doesn't include the fact that some of these guys won't be playing both games. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna lose playing time just from games off or full days off. What if a guy gets a full day off, doesn't play either of the doubleheader? It's a lot of headaches. There's a lot of teams I'm already committed. Like Wong and Edman are the 2 I have a lot of shares of, and most of them are DC, so I'm stuck anyway. But I think at that point, it's hard. And then how valuable can Dylan Carlson even be at this point this year?
Yeah, that was a question someone just asked in the chat. How fast do they even call up Dylan Carlson? Like, if you're the Cardinals and you have to there's a certain threshold of games that the team has to get to even qualify for the playoffs because of situations like this. They don't want people getting in because they're 5-4, or something like that, or 5-3. So like the percentage, which is where how teams are getting into the playoffs. Doesn't matter if you don't reach, I think it's 55 games. Cardinals ain't reaching 55 games at this point. So like, why would they even, if they have no playoff aspirations because of this? Mike Werner joining us. Mike,
what's up?
Yeah. Do you think the Cardinals even bring up Dylan Carlson at this point?
I don't think so. And even if they do, I think it's going to be for minimal playing time. LT Murray, what's up? I'm so psyched right now.
Oh my God.
What's up with the hair though? I gotta talk about that for a second. But I'm pretty low on all Cardinals. I'm holding on to a few that I have, and Tommy Edman's probably the guy I have the most shares of with St. Louis. But as far as it's already been a clusterfuck when it comes to that team. And you were mentioning the playoffs. I don't know how many games they're going to complete, and I just don't know. I've dropped everybody down. You keep Flaherty, you keep Edman. There's a couple other guys that you keep, but ultimately, this is a situation that like we all knew this can still happen with all of our other players. It's just the way of the land right now. So ultimately, you do have to drive. I've benched every Cardinals player going into this week. I had the wherewithal to do that, but going into future weeks, we'll see what happens.
Let's talk real quick about one more Cardinal before we move on to kind of the main topic, which is really more of this players that we need to figure out if we're dropping right now. But Jack Flaherty, Greg Blankenship brought this up in the Friends of Fantasy Benefits staff chat, because now we're talking about a guy who we don't know when he's going to get his next start. We also don't know how many more starts he's going to get. If they're playing a lot of doubleheaders, he's still going to need to go every fifth day. That could be a lot of games. If they're playing 9 games a week, he gets one of them. That means he may have 5, 6, 7 more starts. Ooh, would you try to trade Jack Flaherty there, Mike?
Yes. I'm all about getting, and oh yeah.
All right. We're going back to the original. This is how we decide Mike's. Mike Werner's
show.
Mike,
could be anything else.
No. Mike Werner is evil Mike, and Mike Kurland is good Mike. So good Mike, would you try to trade Jack Flaherty right now?
Yeah, for sure. I just think between his name value alone, with the pitching landscape being what it is, and just so many questions with that team, and now we're not even sure if he's ramped up. We could be having an issue of ramp. We need a ramp up period. He could be only throwing 80 pitches his first game back, so it's already like a slow. Like there could be that going on. We know. I'm sure he's throwing bullpens and all that, but we don't know what's going on. There's a lot there, and I'm who knows who's gonna be hitting on offense to even get him wins as well. We just don't know any given game and all this headache. I'm willing to, depending on what I can get back in return, obviously, I'd be willing to sell him based on name value, because I think you can still get full freight for him.
All right, LT, would you rather have Flaherty or Zach Gallen? Someone just asked that in the chat.
I think I'm dumping him. Making the move.
Yeah, I think I would too. And I love Flaherty. Like I absolutely love Flaherty. I had him ranked, I want to say, in my top 6 or 7 coming into the season. And he's looked great. Flaherty or Marquez.
Going on, though. Like you just said, like with all the little nuances of what's going on and how their games might end up being meaningless and blah, blah, blah. And when is this going to end? And how many games are they going to play? All the double headers. It seems like too much risk.
Yeah. Someone just same guy just asked Flaherty or Marquez. I think that's where I draw the line. As much as I like Marquez, but Colorado pitchers just scare the crap out of me.
He's been so good. It's tempting.
Someone just asked, they picked up Adam Plutko, and should they start him? Because we did have, I didn't even have this on the rundown, but both Zach Plesac and Mike Clevenger
are idiots.
And get sent home because they decided to go out to dinner in Chicago after a game. I would totally start Plutko right now. Plutko looked great in that spot start that he had. He's looked pretty decent coming out of the bullpen. He's stretched out. Warner, would you start Adam Plutko?
Yeah, absolutely. I ditto exactly what you just said. I think that, the Indians pitching staff as a whole right now is looking very good. And I again, pitching in the Central, he might get a couple starts. Maybe this lends him a little bit of time in the rotation. Who knows? I mean, Plesac, you can't drop. I mean, obviously Clevenger, you can't either from the rotation. But I like Plutko. He's demonstrated some decent skills in the past. Somebody that might get hard at times, but hit hard at times, but overall, somebody that I definitely will stream for now, and we'll see what happens later. But Mike Clevenger, it's always something with him. I mentioned that on Twitter earlier. It's like, it's always fucking something.
He seems like such a huge stoner. I'm sure he is. Yeah. But
the hair.
I love that he was defending Plesac in the team meeting before they flew back, and then he copped to going out with him. He's like, no, let's not be so hard on the guys. That way, when you find out, like, that's like you and your brother, like, cheat in school or whatever, steal something from 7-Eleven. Your brother gets caught. And you're like, oh, go easy on him. So that way, when they check the camera and see it was you too, you're not you're not getting this much trouble. That's some funny ass shit right there. Let's talk about kind of our main topic for the day, and it's kind of drop or hold. Some guys who are struggling, and whether or not we need to move on. Madison Bumgarner, I mean, he's now on the IL, but I think he was a drop before the issues. I was very, very afraid of him coming into the season. Did not like moving out of San Francisco, where I think that park really hit a lot of his, issues, and really kept the ball in the yard for him. So, LT, are you dropping Madison Bumgarner?
Oh, yeah, I've been dropped Madison Bumgarner. I would never, ever have drafted him this year anyway, except a late round flyer. He's just been looking like he's done. Sadly, for all the great things that he did for your city over there in San Francisco, true legend, an icon. But yeah, it looks like he's done to me. Dropped.
Yeah, I mean, Hall of Famer in my book, may not make it to the Hall of Fame, but Hall of Famer in my book. But yeah, I just don't think. Mike Kurland, are you dropping Mad Bum?
I wasn't drafting him, so yeah, I'm definitely dropping him.
All right, Werner.
I agree. And, the unfortunate part is that his skills were already down before the injury, and maybe the injury played a role. Back injuries often, have issues with pitchers. But, he was somebody that I was pretty much fading in draft time. And, obviously you can drop him now.
Someone's asked in the chat, Ian Anderson, is he coming up for Sean Newcomb? Because one bad start in Atlanta, and they're like, we are fucking done with you. Fultonevich, gone. Sean Newcomb, gone.
It's the same shit every year with Newcomb. He gets a few starts to begin the year. They realize that he sucks ass. He can't find the strike zone. He walks everyone.
Bullpen where he's fantastic. Like, that's like, put him in, like, they've lost 4 starters already this season.
Yeah, it's been bad.
And I don't even think that doesn't even include Felix Hernandez, who opted out before the start of the season.
Well, maybe he'll opt back in like Nick Markakis. Maybe
he'd be their number 2 guy.
I know. They need somebody. I mean Ian Anderson was somebody that I was picking up last week in, hopes that he would come this week, and it might come. I still think Kyle Wright is the best young pitcher they have. I know it hasn't shown in the service stats yet, but I think long-term Kyle Wright is the dude. But Ian Anderson could be the type of player that, shows some type of, small sample upside that we could, use, especially for this year. This is just going to be a wacky year. And somebody like Ian Anderson, maybe he gives you 4 or 5 pretty decent starts with like a 4.3 ERA and like solid strikeouts. I'm in.
I mean, they have a plethora of young arms Ian Anderson, Bryce Wilson, Kyle Wright, Touki Toussaint. I'm totally forgetting somebody else that's pretty good. Now I'm like looking up there. I can't remember who it is. Oh, Kyle Mueller is there. Like, they've got a lot of guys they can bring up and try out, but a team that won the division last year. Someone said Joe Adele just got a hit. This is not a test. This is a team that won the division last year and has designs on making it to the World Series, and that rotation is in some dire need of help right now.
No, Soroka just had the worst luck. I mean, it literally derailed their entire year, and
it was looking good too.
You hate to see it, But I mean, it's unfortunate. The Braves were a sleeper kind of candidate to be somebody that a dark horse World Series candidate, and you lose your ace, you're done.
You gotta love looking at you go to Ross Resource and just look at the Braves page. Max Fried, SP2 TBD, SP3 Touki Toussaint, SP4 TBD, SP5 Kyle Wright. God, this is so I feel bad for them.
His last outing, he looked pretty sharp, and I like Patrick Weigel a little bit. I mean,
he gets the Yankees, right? Is that what he gets this week? Was the Yankees?
Yeah, he gets the Yankees. Yeah, so I sat him, for sure.
Yeah, you sit him.
I wonder when some of these teams that are competing in the division, or for the playoffs or for a World Series, like the Braves, start going shopping. Like if you're the Braves
last week,
yeah, I mean. If you're the Braves, if you're the Rays who just lost Charlie Morton, why aren't you calling San Francisco and finding out if Cueto or Samardzija are available? Calling, Pittsburgh doesn't have any arms left because they're all injured too. Who else has? I mean, that's the hard part.
On this list. There's one guy on this list that is kind of fits that bill if somebody wants to pay up for him.
Yeah,
and Boyd.
Yeah, Matt. I mean, but like Boyd's now at like low point. And we'll talk about him in a second. Let's talk about the next guy. Nick Solak hit a home run yesterday, except for it wasn't a home run. It was a four base error, bouncing off of Joe Adell's glove. Joe Adell needs to have a big night tonight because he needs to make up for what the hell that was. But Nick Solak has struggled. He had the 2 stolen bases in one game, and that's been pretty much it. I was a huge fan of Solak coming into the season. They're batting him second tonight. I haven't seen yet. I know he struck out in his first at bat, but I haven't seen anything else. Warner, what are you doing with Solak? Are you dropping and moving on?
No, I'm holding strong with Solak. His bat is strong. His exit velocity is still strong this year. I think that there's a lot to be made up for. And I mean, again, this is just a really small sample, but overall, I'm pretty happy with how hard he's hitting the ball. And I like the fact that they're moving him up in the order a little bit. That the Rangers need his offense. And I think that he has enough defensive versatility to help us as well and stay in the lineup consistently. It's going to be a grind with some of these guys. I mean, there's multiple players that especially me, I'm very patient, but right now I'm very impatient because we have a very short season. So somebody like Solak, has crossed my mind to maybe, flip him in a shallow format. I don't mind if you're just going to churn hitters, but if you're in a 15-team league or deeper, I think you keep on staying the course with him because I think things will turn around pretty quickly.
Curlin, are you dropping Solak?
No, my big thing with him is not even even if you don't believe he's going to come around fully, just look at the fact that the Rangers are stealing, I think the second or third most bases in the league as of right now as a team. And
led the league last year.
Yeah, they're a team that's just ultra aggressive on the base paths, and that alone will carry his value. He has a stolen base tonight, and if you want to look at just the last 2 games, he went 2 for 4 last night. He's 1 for 2 tonight so far with a stolen base. He gets Seattle for 2 more, and then he goes into Colorado. So again, I actually buy into it, Warner, as far as his hit skill and everything. So This could be a get right week with Seattle, and then in Colorado, we could see him get his bat going, get that confidence up. Like you mentioned, the Rangers, they piss me off because they keep they don't let any hitter stay in the lineup spot for more than a game or two. They have him, I think, hitting second tonight. They put him down to 6th, lefty, right. They keep moving around. Hopefully, they find a spot for him. Let him stay and kind of just get in his comfort zone. But ultimately, the steals alone with the Rangers, I think, like I said, being as a team so aggressive on the base paths, he got his 3rd stolen base tonight. That alone is reason enough to hold on to him.
Well, the whole team is struggling offensively. I think
Willie Calhoun was the last time I looked at Willie Calhoun, I think he was hitting less than 150.
I mean, Shin-Soo Choo was hitting 140 something. I mean, outside of Todd Frazier and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, everybody's hitting Mendoza line right now. It's just it's brutal. I mean, I think that park is having a real effect on their offense and their defense. I don't know if you saw earlier tonight, Kyle Lewis completely misjudged a ball in the outfield, and it just totally. I mean, Willie Calhoun, I think it was, got a triple off of it. Because Willie Calhoun, not a fast guy.
Calhoun 3 for 3 with a bomb though, so I don't care how many errors he makes.
Yeah, well, I mean, it technically wasn't an error because he just totally misplayed it in the corner. LT, you dropping Solak?
He's muted.
You're on mute.
That's fantastic.
Still on mute.
Bottom left.
There you go.
Apologize. The stage is set. The Rangers, Texas Rangers, coming into the season, they were one of my sleepers. They're sitting at 6-8. He's 25 years old. He's got power. It's all set up. The on-base percentage still looks good. I think he's going to start seeing the ball. I think I'm definitely holding him as Warner. My dog said, if you're in a 15-team league or somewhere around that nature, you got to hold on to him because I think it's going to turn around for the Rangers, and I think they're going to make a playoff push, and I think it's going to be in part due to my boy Nick Solak. Definitely hold.
All right, a couple questions from the chat. We'll throw out. Billy Hayes asking, how or should I hold on to Tyler Mahle? Wade Miley can't possibly last, right? I would. I mean, even if Wade Miley does stay in the rotation, the Reds have shown that they have a lot of faith in Mahle, that he's going to come in when starters aren't doing well or can't go deep into games. You probably pick up some sneaky wins. Billy and I share on a main event team. I'm pretty sure we kept Mahle on our team. So, or maybe that's my other main event, one of the two. So I'm not worried about Tyler Mahle. Curlin, you worried about Tyler Molly's role in Cincinnati?
I want Molly to, like, I know you're a Miley guy. I was actually buying into Miley a little bit this year as well, but Molly's looked really solid, and I was hoping he'd hold on tight to the spot. I think he's a fringe guy. If you need the innings, you drop him because you can't afford to hold him. But if he's somebody, if you have the space to speculate, you just hold tight where he's at, because I think if Miley struggles a start or two, he could be right back. They can flip flop in roles, or obviously any injury, anything like that. Molly's like the next man up. So like I said, it's really team dependent. If you're up on innings, if you're in roto league up on innings, you can kind of just stash them or have them in there for ratios and Ks, maybe sneak a win in there, stuff like that. But in your weekly leagues, like, I don't know. Like, I'm thinking it's like him or Plutko. I think it depends on how bad you need pitching this week. Plutko's going to start, Molly isn't. So that's the type of drop you might make. But I don't know. Like I said, it's like, I'm like, either way, you can talk me into either way, depending on what team I have and what team looks like.
Another question from Billy. What are we going to do with Pete Alonso right now? I mean, he is absolutely struggling. Warner, is this something that you're really worried about if you have Pete Alonso on a team?
Yeah, absolutely. I was worried about him coming into this year, and that was in a full season, let alone a short sample. I mean, there's a real chance that he hits somewhere in the vicinity of 212 in the 60 games with 7 or 8 home runs, and that's going to really be bad, especially it might be actually beneficial for his draft costs going into 2021 if, praise, Lord, we have a season in 2021.
Oh, God, don't say that. Don't say that.
I would like to say drop him. I know that's a real drastic move, but I don't think that his batting average is going to turn around much. And, yes, there's power there, but I think that somebody like Justin Smoke is going to turn it around in the power department. And if Justin Smoke's there, I honestly feel a little bit better about him because he's, shown it for years that he's at least going to hit for power. But, Pete Alonso, I'm not saying that Pete Alonso is worse than Justin Smoke. I'm not in on Pete Alonso. I don't think that this is going to change. I think you might see some slight increases here or there, but I think if you have Alonso, that you're in a really bad situation.
LT, talk some sense into Warner, because that's an absurd take.
Did you just talk about Justin Smoke? Is Justin Smoke still playing Major League Baseball?
He sure is.
Very mediocre replacement level. I can't even stand the thought of Justin Smoke. Ever since the Mariners days, the guy's just been nothing but a disappointment his whole life. He was okay.
His whole life?
Oh, no. That's not his whole life. He had a pretty good life going until recently, until the last 5, 10, until he made the majors. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And
my point was that you could pick up a waiver wire guy that's going to fill what Pete Alonso.
I got a good name.
What?
All right, you got a good name? Tell me.
Jesus Aguilar.
Oh, that Aguilar, that's one that I was big on coming in the year, and people on my own podcast told me I was silly and stupid on Aguilar.
If there's a reason to buy into it, it could be a fluke because it is Aguilar. We've seen him do these, but a little bit on him is that he had a little minor swing tweak or mechanical tweak. I noticed when I posted a video on it today, and with it, the launch angle is increased. He's hitting less ground balls. He's pulling the ball more than ever. All this is that type of tangible change you're looking for in a short season that could at least lead to some production. He's actually more aggressive at the plate. He always made really good zone contact. These are off top. I'm glad I did my homework on him today, so it's all there. He's always made really good zone contact. He has 100% zone contact right now, not going to sustain, but he's always been a mid-80s guy. So the zone contact's there, but he's increased his contact and swing rates across the board, and that's played well to his skill set, having a good eye for the ball. So I think you pair all that together, hitting less ground balls, putting the ball in the air more. And he's hitting 3rd or 4th any given day in Miami with VR who gets on base and Birdie who can get on base. I think there's some solid value there. Now, will he get traded? Maybe, but I think there's a chance for him to be closer to what he was prior to last year. And he's a guy you can get off waivers right now to replace that same skill set that you're losing from that you're not currently getting from what's his face.
Are you dropping Alonso for Aguilar?
I'm not dropping him, but I'm benching him for him.
I would. Yeah, I would bench him. Not drop him, but you can't drop Alonso. But overall, you should not feel good about it if you have him.
You still get the power.
We're just talking about giving him a couple days off until he comes back. Okay, guys.
Yeah, give him 6 more weeks off.
You're not dropping Alonso. And I was very concerned about him coming into the year because I was worried you'd get a Rhys Hoskins-like season, and that's kind of probably what we're getting. Is I think you'll still get the power, and I think he's still going to walk. But other than that, I'm not super confident, like Mike said, on his batting average. It's just that is gonna be a problem. And so yeah, he could hit 220 with like 12 home runs, and you'll be happy for the 12 home runs, and you'll be extremely sad you drafted him in the second round.
Cano can't get him back on point. Cano can't give him.
Cano's on the IL. Nothing Cano can do.
Cano's doing better on the IL.
All right, we're gonna burn through some of these other ones real quick, and then we'll finish up here with some more questions because I've actually got another podcast to go do. Unfortunately, after this, fortunately, actually, I'm doing with High Stakes Heat guys. I'm excited about that. So if you haven't checked out that pod, definitely go do that. Scott Kingery, really, really struggling. Curland, are you dropping Scott Kingery?
Yes.
LT, you dropping Kingery?
Oh, I've been dropped him.
All right. Werner?
If I have to, I will. But I would hold on if it's just me benching him, then I'm gonna keep him on the bench for another week or so.
All right. Next guy, the aforementioned Matt Boyd. There were some people in the industry really, really high on Matt Boyd coming into the year. Mike Curlin's raising his hand, so I'll let him go first. At this point, are you dropping Matt Boyd?
I made the mistake and dropped Paxton before his last start, so I think I'm having a little bit of like, but Paxton's velocity isn't even back up yet, so I'm not even sure I'm buying into last start. But honestly, I actually still have him on another team. I didn't start him anyway, so I know if I had him, I wasn't going to start him. But that goes back to me saying that let me just pump the brakes a little bit. I need to learn to be a little patient. I know it's a short season, but there still is time for patience. I'm going to give Boyd one more chance to show me I was halfway right on him. Because I feel like him and Musgrove are kind of entering this area of like, just they keep burning us year in and year out, but we just can't seem to give up on them.
Yeah, no, I mean, and when you do, that's when they'll break out
every time in Colorado or like Robbie Ray pitched decent tonight in Colorado. Like we all knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, because no one was starting him.
Yeah,
I actually recommended him as a contrarian play on my DFS article.
Oh, I lied. I lied. He was pitching well. It went full Robbie Ray, 6 earned runs in 3.2.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Brian made it through the first 2 innings really clean, and then he had a really
that's exactly. I looked. I swear I looked before I got on here, and I'm like, oh, Robbie Ray's dealing through two. Like, okay, cool. Next thing you know, 3.2 and 6 earned.
Never mind. The Colorado weed wore off, and you realized he was Robbie Ray again.
Yeah, exactly.
You're concerned it didn't work out, Justin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is why it's contrarian play, because you really shouldn't play it. LT, any interest in keeping Matt Boyd on your team?
Well, first of all, he's from Mercer Island, Washington, right down the street from where I'm at right now. So I got to give him his props. And his whip is under 2 somehow, even though his ERA is blown through the roof. And absolutely not. No, I've never been a Matt Boyd fan. I don't want him on my fantasy roster. He's on Detroit. I don't like anything about him. I never have, and I never will.
Werner.
I dig one pitch of his. I've never understood the fascination with Boyd. He's always going to be homer prone. His command is always going to be iffy. And he's somebody that's always going to struggle getting righties out. I don't understand. Just because he upped his strikeout rate last year, I still think he will always be somebody that can provide strikeouts, but his ERA is always going to be above 4. He's kind of like the AL version of Robbie Ray in a sense if he ends up having over 9 or 10 strikeouts per 9. I mean, he's just somebody that's going to be continuously erratic.
He's just way too hittable inside the zone right now. It's because
his command is poor.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's not hitting the glove when they're going into the zone. And yeah, that's scary to me. I do think he is. Matt Boyd is AL Caleb Smith. True or false? False. But
you can't drop him.
Still good. No, I think you can drop him.
I don't think you should.
People are hitting 365 off of him right now. I mean, just raking on his ass.
Yeah, I think you have to at least bench him because there's nobody really on the waivers that's going to give you the strikeout potential. And maybe against KC, you can try him out for that, or
he doesn't get to face the Tigers though.
He doesn't. That's unfortunate.
Right.
The White Sox are legit.
Yeah. So, all right. Next one is Luke Weaver, another guy who is struggling. A guy I liked coming into this season. I'm not quite yet ready to jump off of Luke Weaver. Are you, Warner?
I'm not going to jump off, but he is somebody that's definitely on the bench for now. I haven't looked up his next, few starts or whatever, but he's somebody that like in a full year I would have projected for like a 4.5 to 4.8 ERA. Right now, obviously he's had a couple of really rough outings, and mind you, he's faced San Diego twice and the Dodgers once, and all three of those starts, 2 of them were away. 5 home runs in those outings. Like, there's no way he's that bad. So I do think we'll see some positive regression here soon. So yeah, I'm going to hold on Weaver, but he's somebody that's going to not necessarily put up a ton of strikeouts, and his control/command has been iffy this season, more so than in other past years as well. So I'm hoping that he's kind of finding himself as far as I know he had a tight forearm last year. I'm hoping like that's starting to get a little bit better over time. But yeah, to answer your question, I think that he's a hold, and I think he'll have some value as we move forward.
LT, what are you doing with Luke Weaver?
He's muted again. I love it.
LT.
Oh, I love it.
Roster I'm dealing with. I'm not a huge fan. I don't know why that keeps muting. I'm not sure what's going on there. But yeah, 2020 is looking rough for Luke. Just for the D-backs staff in general, I'm just sort of concerned with him. I mean, the age 26 season, I would maybe hold or use as a matchup play. The strikeouts were not terrible last year. I think he will definitely improve upon where he's at right now. So it just a matchup play, like you said with Boyd. Boyd has the more strikeouts, but again, maybe against somebody like KC or a weak team, I'm throwing him out there. But I mean, if you can't afford the roster spot, you could just move on.
I mean, he's pitching, I think, tomorrow or no, on Wednesday in Colorado. So obviously, you're not. You're not going to start him for that start, Curlin. But are you dropping Luke Weaver?
No, I still want to believe in him a little bit. And you look at some of the stuff, I think there's just something going on. Like, he's never walked this many batters before. His walk rate is way up. His K- walk rate is obviously down because of that. But the K rate's right in line with last year with that little pseudo breakout we saw. The strand rate is due to regress positively. It's only at 56.3%, so that's coming up. The BABIP's at 407, that's coming down or should come down. There's a lot of things that should work in his favor. We'll see. I mean, and he's always been a better ground ball pitcher, and his ground ball rate is way down compared to typical usual years, giving up way more home runs. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, I don't think he's dealing with any type of injury. There hasn't been any word of that I've read, but I'm willing to at least stash him for the time being.
Yeah, I think I'm still stashing him right now. The velocity seems okay. His fastball is getting beat the hell up, which is a bit weird. I wonder if this is like a pitch mix issue, or maybe he's just off a little bit mechanically. You definitely got to just reserve him. But I mean, unless I'm in a real roster crunch, which some people are right now, I would probably just try to reserve him. We have a question. Would you rather have Weaver or Dylan Cease?
I'd rather have Cease. I'll take the guy who's pitching better right now.
I'd go Cease as well.
Just for that reason.
Because of the division. I think the division lends him a little bit better opportunities. And
I think that's the tiebreaker for me is getting to pitch against those central teams. Dylan Cease has a little bit better schedule ahead of him. So, all right, we're going to do rapid fire on these next 3. We got Willie Calhoun, then Andrew McCutchen, and Oscar Mercado. 3 guys I've got on a lot of different teams this year. So, Mike Werner, which one would you keep? Which ones would you drop?
I'm going to keep Willie Calhoun. Obviously, coming back from an injury, it's going to take a little bit of time for him, but he has an awesome bat. I mean, he's somebody that's going to definitely rebound. McCutchen, I'm definitely worried about in a lot of ways. I don't know how this is going to work out as the season goes on. Although he can't be this bad either. So I think you hold on both Willie Calhoun and Andrew McCutchen for now. As far as Mercado, I don't see why you would drop him anyway. He's a speed source, and overall, like, he has to start stealing. I'm a fan of Mercado, so all 3 of them I would keep. I would say if you had to drop one, like in a crunch, if somehow you had all 3 of them, then McCutchen would probably be my lowest ranked player of the 3. With Mercado probably presenting the highest upside, but Calhoun is probably the safest, if that makes sense.
That is a weird thing to say considering their histories. But, Curlin, where are you at on those 3?
I pretty much echo the sentiments of the other Mike. I'm right in line with that. Just my only thing about Mercado is not even like necessarily his fault, but I don't know if anybody's really noticed. A lot of people aren't really talking about it, is that there's like a carousel, like an outfield carousel going on in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like Mercado might play. He plays 2 out of 3 essentially. He gets the occasional third start in a row, then he definitely sits the next one. And there's no, again, it goes back into just letting these guys get into their groove. The top 5 does not get messed around with there, but outside of Franmil, who's a DH anyway, so he doesn't even play the outfield, they pretty much just rotate that outfield out, and Mercado's not even getting a chance to really get going. So that's why I'm so concerned about him, but I would still drop McCutchen first. And then but the only difference would be is I would drop Mercado second, because I know speed's valuable, but he needs to get on base to steal. He needs to play to get on base to steal, and that's where I like that whole. I'm just waiting for, if he doesn't come through and start performing, I think he'll be replaced, or he'll be on the short side of a platoon sooner than later. And then Willie Calhoun being the safest for playing time and having the best hit tool of the bunch.
LT, what are you gonna do? Make sure you unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah. I'm on board. McCutchen to me is mostly just a name, is more so just a name at this point. He's third on the list for me as well. Mercado, he's got the steals, the power, but my boy Calhoun, like I mentioned when we were talking about the other guy earlier that I'm blanking on the name, but we were talking about the Texas Rangers. The stage is set.
Solak.
They're about to turn it around. Yeah, Solak. Calhoun's going to pop right into that lineup, which I still think has some real upside to it, some nice hitters, and I think he's going to get it in. So for me, I'm going Calhoun, Mercado second, and McCutchen, God bless his soul. He's been a great man for the sport, but it's been years since I was loving anything he did on the baseball field.
Since he cut his dreads.
Correct.
Well, and you know what? I'm going to give McCutchen a little bit of some slack here too, though, because – one, he was coming off the injury. He was a little bit slow getting, ready in spring. And then they've also had canceled games because of the stupid Marlins. So, like, I'm gonna give McCutchen some slack. Professional hitter, dude, still has skills. I'm actually not worried about any of these guys. I think they're all gonna be fine. I'm gonna try to hold on to him. Obviously, if you got all 3 in your outfield, you're kind of fucked right now, anyways. And you might have to make a tough cut. And I guess McCutchen is the guy. No, you know what? I'm not dropping McCutchen. I'd rather drop Willie Calhoun.
Really?
And I love Willie Calhoun, but I mean, Texas has shown they're willing to sit that guy, and he still struggles sometimes against lefties. He's even admitted he's scared to go against lefties since getting hit in the face. So like that's. I think I would drop Calhoun. I would try to keep all 3 though. But I love Willie Calhoun, so it's hard.
But when's the last time McCutchen's been good?
He was good before he got hurt.
Kind of.
Oh, you say kind of.
I mean, I want to come back on the show, so I'll just stay out.
He put up what in 2018? 20 home runs, 14 steals.
You just like him because he played on the Giants for a brief period.
2014 is not bad. Plus, he's he's a 50% walk guy. Yeah,
you're right. He was good in 2014. He wasn't bad. Oh, you mean 2014? Oh, sorry.
2014.
How dare you all? All right. Couple quick questions from the crowd. Would you sell high on Kyle Lewis? LT, I'll let you take this one first since you are a Mariners guy. Got to unmute yourself.
The hype, he could possibly live up to the hype. I've seen Gray on Razzball talking about this guy nonstop. The whole internet just talking about him. He's lived up to the hype and then some. I'm definitely not selling him, and I'm riding it. I'm riding it like a freaking wave all the way to the fantasy championship. I mean, he's gonna cool down, no doubt, but unless you got some crazy offer for him or something. But yeah, I'm riding it.
Erlen, are you selling high on Kyle Lewis?
I've been a Kyle Lewis truther for a while now, and right now I'm with him. I'm riding it, man. I'm not selling. Don't get me wrong. Everybody has a price. I'll sell for the right price, but he's another swing change guy, and this one was a more big one. This one was a bigger one, more upright, and it's causing the launch angle actually went down, which is concerning. 3.3 degrees, but so it's really low, and it's causing him to hit more ground balls. But the line drive rate is through the roof right now, and that's going to play to a higher BABIP. He's hitting it to all fields, so it's going to play to a higher BABIP and batting average as well. So we might lose a little bit of the power, although he hit another home run tonight. We could see a higher, like, just all around category guy. But the strikeouts are always going to be concerned with him. If you can sell high, it just depends on what you're getting. But I'm more likely to just ride it out because the short season, he's already returned on investment by tremendous amounts. It's hard to imagine you get like who you buying low on that would give back that value is my thing. Because if you give him up right now and he does this for another 2 weeks,
somebody offered you Altuve?
That's a great ask.
Altuve's struggling. I would take Altuve.
Altuve. Yeah,
you have to. That's a good one. I think you have to.
What about Eugenio Suarez, who's struggling?
Suarez.
I'll take Suarez. If I can see in my head, the problem is I play with a lot of people who would never give me these players.
Yeah, that's not on the table.
In some home leagues, this
no,
would
you're
happen.
right. No, you're right.
It's not going to happen in industry league. It's not going to happen. Obviously NFBC doesn't have trades, but it's not going to happen in some of these bigger money leagues. But in some of these home leagues, yeah, I think you probably could.
If that's the case, give me that all day. Give me insert struggling top 100 pick right now. Like, well, not top 50, whatever you get. Like, do you think? Sorry, go ahead.
He's still striking out 30% of the time.
Yeah,
that's batting average, and his BABIP's 500.
Yeah, that's not going to sustain, obviously.
Yeah, that's coming. Actually, 525 after tonight. So that's coming down quite a bit, and the average will too. So, if you understand and your team can withstand the batting average hit you're going to take eventually, then you can just ride it out because he's going to play every day. They've got he's already showed he can hit major league pitching and hit it a mile. But I do think there's going to be some massive regression. Someone asked, would Curlin take Alonso for Kyle Lewis?
He knows how hard
you.
because he knows how hard I was fading him this year.
Yep.
I was so out on him. I had Olsen ranked ahead of him from back in November, December. I was really big on this whole. I was still high enough on Alonso, but to be honest, I think I'm just gonna say no. I'm gonna let Alonso go. I don't want any part of that. Because Alonso, what's Alonso going to do? Give me power and bad batting average. What's Kyle Lewis doing right now? Giving me power with good batting average, but likely going to be bad batting average with power. It's going to be the similar skill set, but I'm going to ride the hot hand and not have to deal with the bumps and bruises and hope he turns it around in a sophomore slump. That's going to be ending in 6 weeks or whatever. So I'm going to stick with Kyle Lewis, and I know that's definitely hot takey and definitely not for everybody, and I'm definitely going to get killed for that take. But I'm not. I really want nothing to do with P. Alonso.
Wow.
Whoa.
All right.
Doesn't look so bad, does it? No, I'm just kidding.
Final question of the night, and then I got to run out of here because I'm already late for my next podcast. Someone said, yay or nay, or yes or yes, Randy Dobnak, does he have the best mustache in baseball? The answer is no. Garrett Richards has the best fucking mustache in baseball right
now. I'm not too familiar, to be honest with you. I got to go look.
Oh, yeah. Go. Write Garrett Richards mustache into Twitter and see.
I saw the mustache. I saw his. I haven't seen Dobnak's. I feel like I should have.
Yeah,
maybe I have seen it. I'm looking it up right now.
He's had it for a while. So,
all
right. Yeah. All right. So that's gonna wrap us up for this episode. Curlin, remind people where you can reach on social media, and then plug all of your work.
Appreciate it. You can find me at Hate Pizza. No, I'm kidding. You can find me at Mike_Curlin. The host of the Base Loaded podcast, the Beer Bourbon Baseball is the other show I do. Writer for Rotoballer. That's pretty much. I'm a little bit everywhere trying to do everything. So I appreciate you having me on last minute and all. So thanks again.
Hey, thank Mike Werner for not showing up on time. Warner, why don't you tell people where you can reach what you're working on?
Yeah, some people have crying kids.
Yeah, children. God.
Yeah. You can reach me on Twitter at Mike Werner FWFB. I'm looking at Dobnak's mustache. It's quite strong. I would say strong to quite strong. But yeah, I'm doing the daily matchups column. I came out with that today. I should be doing that for the next few weeks until baseball's shut down or, whatever else happens.
Stop saying that. Oh, my God.
But I will be here relatively weekly, hopefully on time. And, keep on riding the Kyle Lewis train.
There you go. LT, remind people where you can reach on social media and then plug all you got going on.
Yeah, first off, I got to thank Mike Werner for continually coming through for me this time by staying away from the computer, pretending it didn't work to get me on the podcast today. I was very sweet of him. He's a great guy. You can find me at, I think it's Sports Bay currently, Yoga Bay 143 on Twitter. I just started writing requested to start writing on Razzball again for the football section because I've been feeling inspired lately. So I think I dropped something a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to be dropping something every Tuesday, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday on Razzball.com, Instagram, Yoga Bay, LT Murray. It's all there. You can find the link on my Twitter.
And then you can reach me on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB. Email me or the show, friendsoffantasybenefits@gmail.com. You can read all my work over on Fangraphs, Friends of Fantasy Benefits, or TGFBI.com. Hear me on this podcast, Sleeper in the Bus podcast, and the TGFBI podcast. And that is about it. For Mike, LT, and myself, thank you for listening and watching. Have fantastic baseball.